Hi. Oh, sorry.
Hello, we're happy to be here. We used to be here in Perugia, and I'm very happy, but it's the very first time when both co-founders of Meduza are on the stage at the same time. Thank you for this possibility.
Yeah, thank you. It's, as always, it is an honor to be here, but also it is a big pleasure to be here at this conference. And this is a very unusual topic for us, actually. Normally we speak about journalism and that's it. Or maybe about struggles around journalism and that's it. Today we're gonna talk about book publishing, and we still feel very unusual and sometimes uncomfortable as a book publishers, but it works. So let's start. Let's go. We have very long presentation, so we're gonna do it very quickly, right?
Yeah, we'll try to be as rapid as possible. Yeah.
That's us.
Yeah, next.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me start with a very short presentation who we are. We left Russia 10 years ago after Crimea annexation at the first stage of Russian-Ukrainian war. We started Media in Exile in Latvia, Riga, and we wanted to prove that good general interest media could be established outside Russia and outside Moscow. You know that Russia is a very centralized country. So 10 years after, we are totally outlaw in Russia. In 2021, we were labeled as a foreign agent. According to Russian authorities, it means that we are working under control and in interests of hostile countries. So we were outlaw in Russia, then we were labeled as an undesirable organization, and it means that any direct interaction with Meduza is a crime. Readers still can read us, but sharing, likes, comments to our content, according to the Russian authorities, considered as a crime and as a spreading of a content of undesirable organization. And it could lead up to 4 or 6 years in prison. So, but still we have millions of readers inside Russia. Our website has 7 million unique users per month. It's approximately 70 million page views. And our mobile application have 1.5 million downloads, and still we are the biggest Russian independent media.
Yeah. So we still, how do we actually maintain that the audience of that size? Well, we have some tools that help us to survive in these really toxic circumstances. First of all, it's our mobile app. It's pretty famous in journalistic world. It contains several anti-blocking technologies, and it can switch from one technology to another. And what is super important, you can use this mobile app and you don't need to use VPN actually. And it's very, why is it actually important? Not only, well, many people think that Russians are lazy and they don't use VPNs even to get independent information, but actually there is a big problem with VPNs now in the country. It's really hard to get a good one. It's really hard to pay for a good one because all those VPNs are international companies. Also, we have a really interesting thing like magic links. It allows us to unblock any particular web page, any particular article. For example, you take this link and you send it to your relatives or friends in Russia, and they can read it without any limitations. And of course, we use a lot of different technologies and tools to actually jump over the new Iron Curtain. And proxy media is one of these technologies. Really, it's when we started Meduza 10 years ago, we never thought that we will need to create such a diverse infrastructure to bypass the censorship.
Yes, we have millions of readers, but last maybe 3 or 4 years, we are in survival mode. What does it mean? Our business model was crushed twice in 2 years. First, when we were labeled as a foreign agent, we lost 90% of our revenue. We were profitable, by the way, but in a week we lost 90% of our advertisers. So we started crowdfunding campaign inside Russia. And it was the most successful crowdfunding campaign in Russian media history. Approximately 200,000 people supported us financially. So we totally replaced our advertising revenue by crowdfunding inside Russia. But then the full-scale invasion started and financial sanctions were imposed and we were blocked in Russia twice. First under the order of General Prosecutor Office and second under the order of Russian regulators. So our business model was crushed for the second time. Our crowdfunding campaign in Russia stopped. So we switched to another mode. Yep. Okay.
So this is where we are now. We have our global crowdfunding campaign. A lot of media and people who actually believe in freedom of speech support us globally now. Of course, we do fundraising as hell, as it's written here. And we are definitely looking for the new points of growth. We think, this is our strong belief, that even media in exile, they can somehow earn money. And this is what we are talking about today.
Yes. Very brief information about where we are now. The war is here and the military censorship was imposed, and since the full-scale invasion of Russia into Ukraine started, more than 100 repressive laws were imposed. So, and now there are mass persecution of journalists, political opponents, and the last event, you know, brutal murder of leader of Russian opposition Alexei Navalny in prison, make our situation worse.
Of course, you know that Russia is is a country where you know, journalism is a forbidden profession, actually. And when we started Meduza 10 years ago, we used to say that the regulators in Russia are useless idiots. Now they are very
skilled.
They are very well educated people. They work together with China and Iran, and they can regulate internet in a quite sophisticated way. Unfortunately, almost 1 million websites were blocked since the beginning of the war, and including very you know, strong initiatives that were designed specifically for the cyber authoritarian countries.
Yeah. First, Russian authorities came after journalism. TV, newspapers, internet, now they came after books and literature. You know, there is blacklist of Russian authors, and there are a lot of taboo topics. For example, LGBTQ plus topics are forbidden to publish and to write about. And there are criminal cases against famous authors in Russia, and there are the process of removal of banned books from libraries and stores.
Yeah, that's why we decided to start our own publishing, book publishing. We have an audience, we still have an audience, and we want to use this advantage as much as possible. And we have more than that. We have an effective distribution channel. We have an app that has a lot of users, and they actually consume independent news through this app. And of course, we have the authors. A lot of them are working in Meduza. A lot of them are collaborating with Meduza. A lot of them are actually our friends.
Or readers. So, you know that the main trend of news media last years was news avoidance. People are tired of bad news. So we do need new audience. We do need new topics. For sure, the war and Russian aggression is the main topic, but we definitely need new agenda. And for sure, we need money, because our monetization model was crushed and we could not rely only on grants.
Yeah, and some other things we were keeping in mind when we decided to make this book publishing. First, a lot of people escaped the country, almost around 1 million, maybe even 2 millions, nobody knows for sure. And these people, of course, are the most educated, of course, the most privileged, and we think that it's kind of a proto-market abroad. So we can use this audience to actually earn money. But of course, the majority of people, they stayed in the country, they are locked there, and what we observe, there is a demand on independent news and independent literature as well. And of course, last but not least, many authors, first of all, international authors, they want to be published in Russian, because Russian is still a very popular language, but they don't want to be published in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, or in any other Russian publishing house.
Yes, so we started with a printed edition of books, and we selling it in many countries all across Europe and America, and we distributing through and we publish printed books, and after few weeks we publish it in our mobile application for free, absolutely. So those people who bought printed edition, they financed our mobile application, and they make money to make us publishing digital for free inside our mobile application for all Russian readers inside Russia who have no access to independent book publishing.
Yeah, this is how it works. It actually helps us to attract more people within Russia. For example, you don't want to read news, you actually avoid them, but you want to read uncensored literature. So you go and download our mobile app. And also, of course, people who read news, they are in a very smooth way, they switch to reading books.
Yes, very short. We are selling books through our mobile application, through our website directly, and in launched Russian bookstores all across the Europe. Now we have more than 25 bookstores who are selling our books, and now we are launching our online store to sell not just books but merch.
Yeah, so let's talk about the books. We don't have a lot of them so far because we have just started, but we have few.
Yeah.
So the first one, this is actually a bestseller, so to say. In our circumstances, it is a book by Yelena Kostyuchenko. She's one of the most famous, one of the most prominent contemporary Russian journalists. She used to work in Ukraine, and this
works for Novaya Gazeta.
She worked for Novaya Gazeta, and this is the title is "My Beloved Country." We made this cover, and it's I think you understand why does it look like that.
It's censorship.
It's
kind of
many different meanings here, and yeah, it was a big hit. But also, unfortunately, it was also a big hit because when we published this book, it turned out that there were news that Yelena Kostyuchenko was probably poisoned in Berlin, on the territory of European Union.
Yes. And the next book, it's a very famous Russian author, Mikhail Zygar, who was author of bestsellers All Kremlin's Men and The Empire Must Die. And here is War and Punishment. You can read it, Leo Tolstoy, War and Peace, and Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, and how Russia had been Distracting Ukraine for Centuries. It's a historical book about relationships between Russian Empire and Ukraine. And the next one is one of the most famous Russian journalists and YouTube show anchors, Katerina Gordeeva, Take My Grief Away. She followed Ukrainian refugees from Russian city of Rostov to Portugal, Spain, Germany, Poland, and there is history of Ukrainian women who survived but lost everything during the war. It's very touching.
This is our recent book. It was published this month, and this is a book that is written by two Russian journalists that were investigating Yevgeny Prigozhin. You know this guy, and his mercenaries, and his coup, his attempt to overthrow nobody knows whom. Yeah, and so this is a very deep and very well documented, proved story of Yevgeny Prigozhin and his mercenaries. His mercenaries that participated in the war in Ukraine since 2014. Then they exported the war, in Africa, in Syria, and worldwide.
And we have digital releases. The very first is a Russian author. She is a leader of feminist anti-war movement in Russia, Daria Sirenko, I Wish Ashes for My House. It's a biography. She spent some time in Russian prison for her anti-war position, so we published it digitally.
Yeah, another digital release. It is actually a very old book by prominent Soviet dissident Natan Sharansky. Interesting story about this book is that Alexei Navalny actually read this book in prison, and he was very much...
he was fond of it. He said that it's his textbook for survival,
yeah,
unfortunately.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's also now, it's extremely relevant to many thousands of people in Russia who are now in prison because of their oppositional and anti-war activities.
Yes, and here we have anonymous author. He's a very famous Russian writer, but he now lives in Russia. So we published him anonymously. This is how the regime of Putin became the fascist regime. So he wrote this book anonymously and we published it.
Yeah, and of course we have something to announce. Normally we never announce our books, but we'll do it here in Perugia for the first time. Okay, so this is, this author. This is Jonathan Littell. He's the author of European and world bestseller, The Good Ones.
Kindly Ones.
Kindly Ones. And this is a book by Jonathan Littell and Antoine D'Agata. Antoine D'Agata is a famous photographer of Magnum Agency, and they took a trip in Ukraine, in Kiev region to be precise, and visited such places as Bucha and Babin Yar to actually, recollect the memories about the events of the World War II and also about the recent events. Yes. This is a very powerful and strong book. I strongly advise you to read it. It exists in French language already.
Yes, in September it will be English edition as well. And coming soon, our photographer and photo editor Evgeny Feldman spent 7 years with Alexei Navalny, and he has great archive of Alexei Navalny photos. So we are going to publish this photo album because after the brutal murder of Alexei Navalny, we realized that many of Russians had this feeling that they lost hope, and everybody wanted to have some physical evidence of presence Navalny in our lives. So it's a photo album, and it's his famous phrase. He started every YouTube show with this phrase, "Hi, it's Navalny."
Yeah, and some other projects, they don't have covers yet. Grigory Rodchenkov, maybe you know this guy. He was the main character in the documentary Icarus. And he was actually the head of Russian anti-doping commission 10 years ago. And he was the figure who actually, he was the main whistleblower about the doping, in the center of doping scandal around Russian Olympic Games in Sochi. Simon Schuster, famous journalist, author of Time magazine, he wrote one of the most important books about this war. This is the biography of Vladimir Zelensky, and it will be published in Russian in Meduza. Also, we are preparing the book which is focused on the history of Donbass, probably one of the most suffered regions in Ukraine, suffered because of the war between Russia and Ukraine. And also we are going to publish a book by Anton Dolin, famous Russian movie critic, which is called Bad Russians. And it explains the way Putin and propaganda used cinema to manipulate the society.
Yes, and we're going to publish fiction books as well. Now we have in plans 3 upcoming books, but actually I do not want to uncover the names just now. Yeah.
So far so good. We think that it actually works. Somehow it works. It helps us to, first of all, to overcome the news avoidance, which was probably one of the key ideas behind the book publishing. It helps us to overcome the literature censorship of literature, and somehow it helps us to explore new source of revenue for Meduza, and we will be precise.
Yeah, to be precise, we published only 4 printed editions of books, but we have 23,000 of overall circulation, and our revenue is €250,000.
Yeah, we have published 8 books digitally, and you can see the numbers. It's huge, and a lot of people, they actually complete the reading. What is really good about internet and mobile applications, you know for sure how your readership behaves. So we know for sure that a lot, like every third reader normally completes the book. I think it is a lot.
Yeah, and you know, actually I hate success stories. I'm very fond of speaking about problems, but now I can say it for the very first time in the last 5 years. I consider it as a success because you know, we have great indicator, total time spent inside our mobile application, 57 years per month, the total amount time spending. Total number of users, plus 32%, and you can see that we have 56,000 new users in our mobile application. And you can see that we consider it like a success.
Yeah, that's it. That's all, folks. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Wow, we're on time.
I think we have like 2 or 3 minutes to actually
minutes, and you know, it seems to me that it's very important. I want to mention that last 20 years we worked in internet. We do not have physical evidence of our presence in this world, you know, and now with books we have physical evidence that we are here. People can touch our books, can read it, can hug it. And it seems to me it's a good sign we could cross digital and physical worlds in this project. Thank you.
I think we have some questions.
Yeah.
I don't know who was the first. Maybe this lady over there. Over there? No, no. Ah, sorry.
When you set up. Hi, thank you very much for sharing. I have a question about the distribution, because you mentioned that you use apps and you use printed versions and so on. Did you have any problems, for example? I mean, app is digital presence, it still can be censored. Have you ever run into problem with that? And I think printed books also as a physical somehow evidence. And does it make it easier, for example, to track and intercept when you deliver it into Russia?
We do not deliver printed books into Russia because it's a crime.
In Belarus as well.
We could not put on risk other lives. We deliver digital, free of charge books inside Russia, and we sell outside Russia because more than 1 million Russians left the country.
We still have time for one more question.
Hi, my name is Ksenia Bulgakova, a Russian independent media outlet 7x7, 7 thank you for the introduction of your project, and thank you for your work. And I personally have 2 published books out of the 4 published books you've presented. Love them, recommend them. My question would be, do you have any preliminary analysis of the new thing that you're doing, that publishing is not easy, it's a business. For those media outlets that might want to decide to follow your steps, do you have any business advice? If you can share it, of course.
Now we are not newcomers in business models, because we were pioneers in branded content and native advertising, so we more or less not newcomers. But now in our publishing house there are only 5 persons, 5.
2 of them are here.
And 2 of them are here. Yes, so we are more or less effective. But I'm a huge fan of the business processes. So for the very first time, we started with the experimental mode. And after 2 months, we were burnt out and we were so tired. So we restart with the business models and with the project manager and with all things. It's not like startup anymore. My personal advice, please do not do it like a startup. Please do business model, project manager, assistant, and all this stuff.
Well, I can only add that we are still learning. We know nothing about this business. We learned a lot during last 4 or 5 months. We know much more now, but we still know nothing. But as well as media, as journalism itself, it is a slippery slope. It's really hard. That's what I can say.
I have a brief comment, and then probably somebody else would be able to ask a question if you have another minute. I have a request. When you speak about the biography of Zelensky being one of the most important books about the war, could you please not say it, because Ukrainians are not so fond of personalist regimes as millions of Russians are. And by saying so, you downplay the role of millions of people who are fighting not for the president, but for their country and their existence. I'm very glad that you have your book publishing process, and I hope that with this you'll be able to continue your work, because you create at least some alternative to Solovьёва and Skabeva. Even though not a lot of Russians consume information by Meduza and other regime-critical media outlets, but it's at least some alternative. So thank you, and I hope you heard my point and would consider it. Thank you.
Of course, we heard your point. Yes, thank you so much. And we think that Simon is very impartial and independent journalist. also in terms of covering Ukrainian politics, and he was tough. As well as many our Ukrainian colleagues, fellow journalists, we know that there are problems with freedom of speech in Ukraine as well, unfortunately, and we are inspired by the work of our Ukrainian colleagues, because, you know, it's really hard in these circumstances to remain as independent as possible. It is a big lesson for us. It is a big, you know, reference for us when we feel broken or tired or whatever.
I have a question, two questions actually. So number one is that you mentioned magic links. Would you please elaborate a little bit on that? And number two is production. So do you guys use print on demand, or how do you distribute the books, the physical books? I mean, do you have like a deal with a distribution agency or not? So just elaborate the process.
Thank you. Thank you. Speaking about Magic Link, under every article inside Meduza, you have special sign as a magic wand. When you click on it, our servers develop unique URL that you can resend to your loved ones or to trusted people, and this unique URL could not be banned because it did not take the mirror of Meduza, you know, so it's unique URL that created when you click on the magic link.
Yeah, sorry, we don't have time anymore, but we're still here at the festival.
About distribution.
Sorry?
About distribution of books. It was the last question. Yes, we publish our book in Latvia. We have very well-equipped printed facility, and we have 1.5 people to distribute physically to the bookstores all across the Europe. So we sell almost 25,000 like this.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.